Hi, my name is Gerard Season. I'm an artist, and I wrote this book. Welcome to Icons, Windows to the Soul. In this series of videos, I will show you each of my paintings, who they are portraying, and how I made them. Hopefully, to inspire you to paint your own masterpieces of anything you are passionate about. In this episode, we feature Saint Dominic Savio. Dominico Savio was the second of 11 children, born to a seamstress and her blacksmith husband in 1842 in the tiny village of Riva in northern Italy. Even as a young boy, Dominic already showed great signs of holiness. When at 4 years of age he went missing and his mother set out looking for him, she found him in a corner, eyes closed, head bowed, arms clasped, and saying his prayers, which he knew by heart. At age 5, he was already an altar boy. He had his first Holy Communion by age 7 when it was more common in those days to receive it as a teenager. As the day drew near, he wrote, "I will go to confession and communion as often as my confessor will allow. I will sanctify Sundays and holy days in a special way. Jesus and Mary will be my friends. Death, but not sin." And he was serious. At such a young age of 11, he knew the tremendous value of sacrifice. Falsely accused in school one day, Dominic received a severe scolding from the teacher in front of the class since he was never known to misbehave. Threatened with being expelled from school, the young Dominic simply bowed his head and remained silent. When the actual culprit was discovered days later, Dominic was asked why he never defended himself. He simply replied, "I knew the other boy was in trouble for other things. I remembered how our Lord had been unjustly accused, and I hoped that if I kept silence, he would be given another chance." When Dominic was 12, he and his father set out to meet the future saint, Don John Bosco, so the boy could become a student at the St. Francis de Sales Oratory in Turin. It was Dominic's intention to become a priest. As Don Bosco said, he looked like good material to make a beautiful garment for the Lord. So he asked the boy to memorize a page from a book and to return the next day. Then he sent the boy off to play while he spoke to the boy's father. But only a few minutes later, Dominic quickly returned and recited the page by heart, memorized word for word. Accepted as a student at the oratory, Dominic was personally guided by Don Bosco. The young Dominic formed among the boys the Company of the Immaculate Conception in order to assist Don Bosco. Dominic was blessed with knowledge of those in need, knowledge of the spiritual needs of those around him, and the ability to foretell of future events. One of his visions was said to have influenced Pope Pius IX to move for allowing Anglicans of the Church of England to return to the Catholic Church. Dominic suddenly passed away when he was just 14, possibly from pleurisy, an inflammation of the lungs. What we know of him comes from a biography written by Don Bosco himself, plus the testimonies of his family and friends. Dominic was declared a saint in 1954, the youngest saint at the time who wasn't a martyr. He is the patron saint of choir boys, juvenile delinquents, and the falsely accused. Saint Dominic Savio's feast day is March 9. Saint Dominic Savio is the first in the series of 33 paintings. In fact, I had even forgotten that Dominic was the very first one I had worked on. But when I was studying the photos, I realized that this one had the earliest date. The paintings are sequenced in this book and videos in the order I started them, but not necessarily in the order they had been completed. I began this in June 2011, 6 months after I had a heart attack. 2 lessons I learned from this piece. 1. It is important to prime the canvas adequately. To prime this canvas, I used gesso, which is calcium carbonate with acrylic polymer. Traditional gesso is a mixture of plaster of Paris and glue. Priming is important to smoothen the canvas adequately and still have enough teeth for the paint to stick on. It makes the canvas less absorbent so that it will not suck up all your expensive oil paint. A well-primed canvas uses less paint. This piece already had 3 layers of gesso, but it still seemed to suck up a lot of paint. In later paintings, I still experimented with several primers only to come up with the simplest ideal one: household elastomeric paint. But even if my paintings are extreme close-ups, I purposely retain the roughness of the canvas, complete with weave variations, knots, and texture imperfections. 2. Take your time to sketch your subject properly, especially when an exact likeness is very important. Every devotee of Saint Dominic or anyone schooled by the Salesian fathers of Don Bosco knows how Dominic looked. Most of his portraits show a slight and delicate young man with large expressive eyes and with a head full of dark wavy hair, a boy whose head seems big for his body. I had not decided at this point what the final look of my paintings would be, whether each would be photorealistic, impressionistic, a raw broad stroke look, or a complete finished piece. My sketch was not a very good likeness, so his image seemed to be getting worse as I went on. I almost gave up and nearly whitewashed the canvas and was tempted to abandon it altogether. But I kept praying to Dominic and kept overpainting until his likeness emerged, taking nearly 2 months without whitewashing the same canvas. I believe I captured the twinkle in his eye. Most time consuming was the finishing stage. I returned to this painting over 2 years after I started it, when my painting style had already evolved from working with the succeeding 32 pieces. I was quite pleased with the resulting face, half illuminated and half submerged in light shadow. When nearly all the paintings were done, I came across a medium called alkyd, or liquid, which when added to oil paint makes it transparent. The shadowed part of Dominic's face came about from layers of translucent paint. The term for this, I later found out, is called glazing. Rather than one dark flat shadow, you can make out his lower lid, the shadow of his nose, and the contouring of his cheek. With this first painting until the last of the series, you, the viewer, are drawn to none other than the eyes. I originally conceptualized this to be a companion piece to St. John Bosco. To be perfectly honest, I selected Dominic to simply include a young boy to the collection. I originally wanted these companion portraits to showcase both a smooth, innocent young man and an older gentleman whose face was lined with years of wisdom and compassion. Realizing the amount of lines the older subject would require, I postponed St. John Bosco for some future series when I've mastered making wrinkled faces. Little did I realize that a smooth young man is not quite a simple thing to paint, especially on a first attempt. So you see, it didn't come easy for me at first since I was self-taught. I hope this inspires you to start painting on your own with any subject that you like and do it passionately. In the next episode, we will feature St. Pio of Pietrelcina. If you would like a copy of this book, Icons, Windows to the Soul, there are some signed copies on Shopee. Please like this video and subscribe. It only takes a few seconds. And like me on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Thank you for watching. This is Gerard Season in Icons, Windows to the Soul. Hope to see you next time.